Design advice is a dime a dozen. But what design advice are you really getting? Hey there, hi, welcome to the channel. I am Garrett, and in this video, we're talking all about some design advice that people give you that may or may not be 100% accurate. We've done a number of these videos that will be linked in the description box down below, but we've got some topics to get into. So let's get into the video. The first thing we need to talk about is that person or those people in your lives that shoulda, coulda, woulda been a designer if they hadn't done this or gone down a different path. And they love to give you design advice because they're really great at picking pretty things. And hey, I love that and I love beautiful things, but there's a lot more to interior design than just that. Someone can advise you and say, that's beautiful and I like that, but you need to be getting the hows and whys, the technical aspects. Does the scale work in your space? How do those colors contrast? Is it going to increase the flow or productivity of the space? There's a lot to take into consideration with interior design that's so much more than just finding pretty things, because fact of the matter is, pretty things are a dime a dozen, and they're pretty easy to find. If I bought every beautiful thing I saw, my house would be packed to the rafters. But I don't, because not every single one of those pieces work in a space or are acceptable or appropriate for that space. On top of that, you may be feeling like someone is pushing you into a specific design style. On this channel, I have a specific style, but it's mine. And I don't try and push it on you or get you to buy things or the things I have in my home, because it's my style, it's what I have, and you don't have to have it. If you like it, I love that for me. But you don't have to follow my style, and you shouldn't feel that way from the advice you're being given, because that's not what interior design is. If we all had the same looking space, everything would be kind of generic, wouldn't it? So the next time you're at a party or you're with those coworkers and somebody wants to give you that piece of advice, just be careful that you're actually getting the facts and opinions around that advice that are useful for you in your space. With all of that said, let's talk about the design advice you're getting that isn't really correct. The first of which is all about rug sizes. And there's a lot of information out there, a lot of videos, and a lot of people talking about it. And what most people say is your rug is undersized, or don't have an undersized rug because it looks cheap. That's accurate, it's true. But what I most oftentimes find is that it's impossible to find a rug to fit the space or the furniture layout as is if there's an issue with the furniture layout. Most of the time when I see an undersized rug, it's because there's just too much space between furniture. You obviously want to have an access point or a walkway into a living room, for example, but the average distance between the sofa and the coffee table is between 14 and 18 inches. If you have 24 inches, it's going to be too far to reach, and you are going to have to get a massive rug to fit that space. Not easy to find, not affordable to get, and you may have to go custom. But making sure you have the appropriate distances between furniture, between your sofa and table and chairs, will make the living room a little bit more condensed, a little bit cozier, because you're using a bit of a smaller footprint for that space, and make it easier to get a rug that actually fits it. A rug is a really great way to bring a space together, to create some division and separation, but it doesn't necessarily have to be this big of an ordeal to go through to find the right rug. I also have recommended numerous times that a rug should extend either 50 or 75% of the way under your furniture if you can't get a rug that's big enough to extend all the way under it. Something like that will make finding that rug for your space easier. That's a little trick of the trade, because in reality, having a rug that fully extends under all of the furniture will actually create a more commercial feeling or hotel-like space. And it may actually be a little bit devoid of some of those characters or some of those quirks that you find in a home. Don't overthink the rug or have to find the exact right rug that's going to fit under all of the furniture, because most of the time you're actually hearing that design advice, the designers themselves are not doing it because it's not realistic. And if you have a solid surface flooring, you spent money on that, why hide it all? You want to see some of that. You don't want to just cover it all up with a rug, otherwise you might as well just have carpet. There's no point in that, so make sure you can see some of that flooring, some of those quirks in the space, because that's what makes it feel like a home, makes it feel comfortable, makes it feel real. While we are on the topic of interior design advice, be sure you take a moment and hit the subscribe button. Join the family because we have got so much incredible content coming in 2022. And be sure to let me know in the comments section after you've subscribed so I can personally welcome you to the channel. The next piece of design advice that I see all of the time and I question often is making a space feel like a hotel. The concept or the idea behind that is great because when you go to a hotel, you're relaxing, you're comfortable, you don't have to take care of everything, so it's a little bit more chill. Well, I don't live in a hotel, so when I, the housekeeper, have to come and maintain the room, I don't want it to be fussy or a mess or difficult to take care of because I actually have to do the work. And maybe you have a housekeeper and I love that for you, honey. She is welcome to come over and take care of my place, but I'm not the one. And it just makes a space a little bit more complicated to take care of when you are solely focused on it looking like a hotel. What people often want from a space that reflects a hotel is what they felt in that hotel or space. I always recommend you go to a hotel and look at those aspects that remind you of it, that make it feel luxurious to you. Maybe that's a color scheme because a lot of hotels use really sophisticated, but a little bit more neutral color schemes to appeal to a wider audience. Something else they incorporate is more commercial-like quality pieces or furniture, materials, or craftsmanship. There's a hotel I absolutely adore, and one of the things that always stands out to me is the weight of the doors. Every door is massively heavy and takes so much force to open, it immediately feels luxurious. That's why I love a solid core door. That's one feature to incorporate into your space if you really like a hotel or you like that feeling, without having to have a space that is generic or impersonal. Those are things to incorporate, or maybe it's that more transitional style the hotel has you like. Take those, break them up, and try and understand why you like those hotel looks before you try and make your home, your bedroom, your space look like a hotel. It's not a public space, it's a private space, and it's your home. The next piece of design advice that I hear being given all of the time, and maybe is not 100% accurate, is actually the height to hang your light fixtures. I personally don't like a light fixture to be anywhere near my head. I don't want it to be hanging low. I don't want it to be like in line with my eyesight or whatever because it feels low. It feels like it's impeding the space. It's a visual block. I want a light fixture to be up and out of the way. A lot of the time you are getting a design advice about these light fixtures that maybe isn't correct is because a lot of people don't know how light actually works. Light reflects off of surfaces and bounces around. So whether a light fixture is up a little bit higher, down a little bit lower, it's going to have the same impact. You can hang a light fixture a little bit higher than is recommended so that it's out of your headspace and it will actually provide the same amount of light. If we're being quite honest, most lights in a space are not actually useful in the way they're intended because they're too bright. If you're getting an appropriate scale fixture, they oftentimes have too many lights for a space and they're a little bit overwhelmingly bright. So I always recommend a dimmer. But when I'm in my living room, for example, and I'm enjoying an evening in and I have my overhead light on, I have it set to the dimmest setting and I put lamps on because it creates a more moody atmosphere that's a little bit more enjoyable. During the day, I really don't need to have my light on because I have windows. All you really need to know is what task are you doing that you need lighting for? If you're reading, an overhead light fixture may not help you all that much. Look into a task light. If you're just setting a mood and you're relaxing, you're watching television, that overhead light fixture might create a glare and you might not even be using it. Look for some lamps. There are other lighting sources than just an overhead fixture that provide light for you in most instances. Be sure you're not hanging a light fixture too high or too low. Based on a generic piece of design advice, take into consideration how it's actually going to look or be used in your space. The next piece of design advice that I hear given often and is kind of sort of correct, but maybe not always, is actually all about using large furniture pieces. This is correct because if you're using all large furniture pieces, you are going to have an issue. The room is going to look overstuffed and a little bit bulky, depending on the scale of the room, of course. If you have a big room, big furniture works. But many of us don't, and that's okay. What I want you to consider is that the main piece of furniture in a room, depending on the type of room, if it's a dining room, that would be the dining table. If it's a living room, it would be the sofa. In your bedroom, it's the bed. Should be the biggest piece, and you can actually go large scale on those pieces and compensate in other ways and areas. So if you have a very bulky piece of furniture, like a really chunky sofa, using a taller chair that has some thinner lines will help to balance that out. You can play with height, with balance and scale to create the correct proportions for every piece of furniture in your space, be it a bed or a sofa. Oftentimes, this piece of advice comes from buying the set, which we always recommend as a general rule of thumb you don't want to do. I like pieces that will coordinate a little bit. You know, if you have two sofas flanking each other, get matching sofas. If you have two chairs next to each other, matching chairs are great. But buying one entire set of furniture often creates a space that's too bulky because those furniture pieces replicate one another. They're just a different number of seats, when it comes to a living room at least. But those sets of furniture, they're designed to work together, so they all have the exact same scale. Sometimes you need to mix up the scale, the proportions of a piece to balance out one another in your space. Having one large piece of furniture is okay, as long as you balance it out with the rest of the pieces. The next piece of interior design advice that is 100% not accurate is that white makes a room look bigger. I hear this all of the time, and the truth is, the only thing making your room look bigger is if the room is bigger. White makes a room look brighter, makes it look maybe a little bit more airy, but bigger, definitely not. What you can do if your space feels a little bit smaller or a little bit cramped before you decide to paint everything white is maybe look at a furniture arrangement or some furniture pieces that allow you to see more of the floor or more of the baseboard. This will immediately make a space feel more open because you can see more of the space, more of the architectural features. Having big or bulky pieces of furniture, maybe they're not physically bulky, but visually bulky, will actually reduce the size of a room. And having pieces that have longer legs that are a little bit more open that you can see underneath or you can see floor under will make the space feel bigger because you can see more of the space. It is more open, that's why it feels more open, but just painting everything white doesn't necessarily have that effect because you still have big or bulky pieces of furniture in that room. If you have a dark space and you want to brighten it up, yeah, you could paint it white. You can paint it a lot of colors that will get it to be brighter, but painting a space white doesn't necessarily make it look bigger. Well, there you have it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. And also, share a piece of design advice with me that you hear all the time, but you don't really understand or you're like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I want to hear from you. Be sure you let me know and give this video a like. While you're at it, I know that you know someone that has given you a piece of this design advice that you did not follow and you want to let them know that you knew it wasn't right to begin with. Share this video with them to prove them wrong because friends help friends. And I will see you in the next one.